Alright, my name's Tom. I'm a student at Plymouth School of Creative Arts. I'm 15. Yeah. Alright, second question. What was your first impression of John? Alright, so my first impression of John, the first time we ever seen him, it was a Friday. I was in year 8 at the start of year 8, and a few of us knew he was already getting shown around and we knew he was a footballer. And then we was like sat down in the sports hall and bringing out the bibs, getting ready to play football for like 25 minutes, half an hour, whatever it was. And then John's come in on the sports gallery with Dave. And I just remember thinking, oh, he's a big lad, just let him be on my team because I'm not winning any 50-50 battles with John. So I think everyone was a little bit like worried that they was going to have to like play against him or something like that. And then that was the first that I ever saw of him. And then moving on from that, the first time I ever actually spoke to him, is he had like a sort of way about him, which was just like, this is who I am. Like, if you don't like me, you don't like me. If you do, you do. Like, and then being like, I'm 13 years old, and like that sort of male figure, I think, is quite important when you're that age, because you need like a male role model to look up to. And John was probably like a prime example of that, because like he'd had a successful career and he'd come from a rough place and a rough background, and then he still managed to make a career out of it. And then he'd gone into mentoring and like inspiring people and stuff like that. So you knew that he knew what he was on about. And so me and John just sort of clicked the first time we spoke, and then that developed into like a really, really solid relationship where even though we don't see each other as much as we used to, we still talk to each other with the same amount of respect that we spoke to each other with on the first day we actually spoke, because it's almost like you just respect him as soon as you speak to him, because you know he respects you back. And if he tells you to do something, you know it's for the right reasons, even if you necessarily don't want to do it at the time. Like, you know, I remember having an argument with someone or something like that. And then John brought us both together into a room, and he was like, listen lads, this is what's happened, just shake hands and move on. And at the time I was thinking, I don't want to shake his hand. But I knew who John was, what it was about, so I was like, alright, I'm just going to shake his hand, because even though I can't see it at the time, there's obviously a good reason behind it. So that's the sort of influence he had on me from when he first joined the school up until now. Alright, third question. What impact has John provided to you at school? Alright, John's been a massive, massive impact to me in school, and in like life in general. I think when he first joined, and just before he joined, I'd got into like football, like really into football and radio and interviewing people, and like we'd had a footballer called Jake Jarvis come into the school, and we did an interview with him in here in this room over 2 years ago now. And so that was what I was really into, and I wanted to do that as my career, and I was really, really driven. And then John came in, ex-professional footballer, and I was so keen to like get everything done, because I wanted to do as much as I could in like as much time as I had. And I remember he was in his meeting with Mike and Dave, and I just went in and knocked on the door of an audio recorder. I was like, yeah, can we set up an interview? And they was like, he had a big grin on his face as soon as I said it. And then you know, they was like, listen, if he gets the job, then when he comes in you can do it and stuff like that. So it didn't happen straight away, and I was a bit annoyed because I wanted to do it straight away, because I'd had other questions prepared and stuff. But then I was like, all right, we'll take time, we'll do it. And then obviously he's come in, and he's heard some of my radio stuff, and like we used to speak about football all the time, and I'm a bit like, when it comes to football, I got a photogenic memory, so I could just remember everything I read about football. So I'd be coming in, and this was when Aston Villa was in the relegation scrap in the Premier League just before they got relegated, we was talking about Aston Villa, and I was like saying this about one player and all these things that I could remember, and he was just sitting there like, jeez, like you got a talent sort of thing. And then he had that belief in me, from which a few people had that belief in me. Some people did, some people didn't. And he had that belief in me, like, you know, you can do this, you can go all the way if you stay focused. You can do it, and it was nice to have that belief from someone who'd been in the game as well, because he'd been there and he knew what was good and he knew what was bad. And he was saying, yeah, you're good, you can do it. So I was like, cool, like, obviously I'm going to, like, trust him. And then we did, like, a little interview thing with him. I do want to do another one with him as well. I spoke to him about it, but, like, we'll see if it happens. I hope I'm going to make it happen. Called it, I'm making it happen. All right. What is John's strength about him? His strength. All right. It's not like persuasion. It's like just his character. Like he doesn't even need to say anything. If he wants you to do something, all he has to do is look at you, and you know what he's saying. And like he's just a leader. And like you look at him and you just think, yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing. And if someone knows what they're doing, then you want to follow them, because then you think, oh, you know what they're doing, I'm going to do that because I'm going to know what I'm doing. And he just had such a big impact on a lot of kids at this school, which sort of needed that sort of role model. And, you know, lots of people were getting into trouble. I was getting into a bit of trouble. And then obviously I found that sort of light in the tunnel, which was football and radio. And then because he knew that was my light in the tunnel, he did everything he could to help me pursue it, which I'm really grateful for, obviously. Like, I thanked him for it, because honestly, like, it made a very, very big difference. I think when you get to, you know, when you first go into your teenage years, and like, you know, some kids go this way and some kids go that way, and I was sort of in the middle, and I didn't really choose what path I wanted to go down. And then him coming in, and I'd already been doing a few stuff, that was just that extra push to push me in the right direction that I really needed. Yeah, so his strength is just his character. Like, just that alone makes him who he is. And I think he's really grounded as well, because of where he's come from, and, you know, like, all the stories he's told me about, like, you know, playing football for hours and hours and hours, and like not having lots of money, and you know what I mean. And obviously growing up, like being black in like the 60s and 70s in Birmingham was a very hard thing to be, because it was very like racist and stuff like that. So he suffered quite a lot, but he still made it. So you know, he never gets ahead of himself. Like he never gets ahead of himself. Like, he's one of the most realist people you've ever met. Yeah, John, legend.